Hello, it's Tamika Chambers, and welcome back to my third season of Create a Generational Love Cycle. I couldn't help today. I had to pause when I wrote today's date and remembering where I was on September 11th, 2001. And I was in my bedroom in my St. Louis apartment preparing for work, ironing my clothes, and the news was on, as my mother often tells us and did tell us often to watch the news to be informed. And it wasn't to scare you, but it was to see what is going on around the world. And I was watching the news before I went to work. I was working in the clinic in St. Louis, and what I saw was unimaginable. It was unthinkable. It was, I thought it was some type of preparation demo, or I even questioned if I was really watching the news, if I was watching some movie. And my heart just goes out to the neighbors, friends, people that were involved on, in air, on ground, just everyone, cousins, family members, aunts, uncles, like I said, neighbors, community members, church members, and everyone who had to relive in some form or fashion that day and continue to relive it. I pray for comfort. I pray for peace. I pray for love. May it surround you this day and many days of your lives. So I am back, and I before leaving, I had a few episodes where I talked about schools, and my children were actually they were in online school, preempted by COVID, and just really not getting a whole lot of feedback as to what was going on. So my husband said, "Hey, let's go ahead and get them enrolled." So um, that was actually in 2020, right? And actually we homeschool. So we homeschool for 2020 to 2021. And 2021, my husband then brought up, we were both concerned about the socialization. So we got them into online school. And I tell you, if you ever, when you're dealing with anything in your life, if you ever have the honor of facing standards. I mean, standards, how things should be done, how your children should feel, the praise was threaded throughout their academic journey at Willamette Connections Academy in Oregon. And Connections Academy is in many states, including Missouri. But it was very challenging in a great way. My daughter, second grade, doing PowerPoints, research, papers, writing, thinking, taking sign language, having the ability to do Chinese. My son being able to do that, and it was just an amazing opportunity to be a part of that. And then fast forward in 2022, they continued with their Willamette Connections Academy online school. And I that whole summer, realizing that Illinois did not have a Connections Academy, just really sending out information to our senators, giving bringing Connections Academy to Illinois. And I was unsuccessful in doing that. And my children, we went ahead and enrolled them into a public school. And I wasn't sure how to feel about the um, 4 minutes in between class. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. And I understood the rationale that, it was more about getting the kids in class and they're not just loofing around, being in the hallway and fights and what have you. And there were some other things that were instituted. Parents couldn't go into the school, which that was something I was totally, unfamiliar with. And I thought it was important to be able to walk my child to his class on his first day of school, because they both, my daughter and my son, had been in online education for a couple of years. right? And so I just thought, that was going to be something to help transition them. But I digress. But 4 minutes, and my son, it was more of my son than my daughter. My daughter still had the regular, go to school, go to bathroom, could go to bathroom when she pleased, come back to class, etc. It was like an open door kind of policy thing. But my son came home and he struggled in the beginning because they had to have locks. They had to purchase their own locks on their lockers. And he struggled saying, Mom, I don't have enough time. He knew in the beginning, he said, that is not enough time to get back and forth to class. And so as time passed, he's rushing to wash his hands. Basically, he was told, get to your class. The books are pretty much in the class. Get to your class, ask your teacher to go to the bathroom, and then you go to the bathroom, right? So you think that this limited time would help create some order in the hallway. And yet still my son had dealt with bullying, profanity from the kids, just really inappropriate language. And my son came home and said, Mom, there was another fight. So there were fights in the hallway, fights on the bus. And he said, I really want to get out of that environment because the tension increases. The tension continued to increase. And sure enough, there were more fights that were happening. And so, and I thought about one of the things happen if you think about this, anytime you lock someone up in a cage, right, you feel like that you have limited freedom, whatever it may be, because of the fights, because of what other people did, you feel like you have limited freedom. You tend to go wild. That's an old saying, right? You lock somebody up in a cage and they feel in the cage, and it's like they always want to just burst through the doors, the cage doors, and they become this wild animal. And I couldn't help but think about that as my son continued to tell us stories about the school. And so fast forward, it lasted for 3 months. Their first school in Oregon lasted for 7 months. This school lasted for 3 months. And I tell you, it seemed like it was worse than what we experienced in Oregon, the racism. It's not so much your child being bullied, but it's about what are the schools doing to stop the bullying. And so we went ahead and put them in a online private school. And we recently just moved to a new city. And so we went ahead and we interviewed the assistant principal at the school my son was going to. I think, again, my daughter, hers was pretty much the same, fifth grade. She a little bit more lax in between going to the bathroom, getting to the classroom, etc. But the school principal, the assistant principal, told us that the kids had 3 minutes to get to school, to get to between the classes. So 3 minutes, all the books, again, the jargon, all the books are, in the class pretty much. My son is like, but what if I drop my books and, my locker? Oh, people are pretty understanding, etc. But 3 minutes, you guys. And I did a quick Google search before came here. And there is, someone put it on Reddit. I hope I'm saying it right. But she had said that her son just started seventh grade. My son just started seventh grade, and he had to get a locker and book bag and all that stuff. And the son came home and said that now between periods it had dropped from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. So this is something that is not only occurring in Illinois, but also in other schools. And I know many schools have done away with personal text. My son still had a text at the previous school, that he brought home, my daughter too. But the thing is here's my question, my concern. What are if you're limiting how much time kids have to prepare from one class to another, to me, it's like you're preparing them for what we're currently having in America, this rush mentality, this rush, just go from one place to another. When you think about washing your hands, proper hand washing, you say your ABCs, right? 30 seconds, a minute to wash your hands. Guess what? If your class is downstairs and you have to go upstairs, that's already a minute. What about using the time to use the bathroom? I know they can go to the teacher and say, hey, ask permission, can I use the bathroom? But then doesn't that eat into the lesson time? And so we're feeding, if we're limiting how much time that we're giving the students in between class, we're feeding this rush America lifestyle mentality where we rush for convenience to go to fast food places, as an adult because we're so used to it. Because remember, train a child how you want him to go. Our children with their schools 6 to 8 hours a day. And so when you think about that, that's majority of the day. That is a regular work hour, a shift, right? 8 hours a day. That's a regular shift. Some people work 6 hours a day. So you're training the child to get out of one class, not really even process. And that's what my son said at his other school. Mom, I couldn't even process what was going on, what I did in the previous class. It was like go from one room and you still feel like you're rushing because in this school, there were over 1,000 children in the school. Hallways were packed, things were going on. My son got bumped, in the hallway trying to get his books and stuff, out of trying to get his paper and stuff out of his locker. So if we're feeding into this rush mentality, we got to think about chronic preventative health conditions, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, obesity, all of that. Stress is the foundation of that. And I know you're like, well, we got to teach our children to be more disciplined and to be organized, but we're also it's encouraged, I think, to have that balance, to have that flexibility, to have more of a relaxed environment. School enough can be, and especially for new students, can already be crazy for them, nerve wracking. And then you have to go into a school where you don't really know anybody and you have these strict rules on getting from one class to another. So what positive mental state is that putting our children in? How are we helping them to drink water? My children came home starving, like raiding the refrigerator. They were hungry, they were thirsty, barely had their food, 20 minutes to eat. What are we doing to our children in school? It really does make a difference when we get involved and we talk to try to discuss really, what is going on. There were so many things that were going on with that school. Honestly, I couldn't do it anymore. It was stressful for sure for my children, and it became more of a distraction than helpful because my thing is I want our children to be in a safe and healthy environment. I want the balance and flexibility. I want to break the cycle of pain. And part of that is this rush mentality, the obesity epidemic, the when you think about many people dealing with health related issues because of unhealthy eating, exercise, where you do all this stuff and next thing you know your day is over and you're doing it all over again. What pleasure do you get in that? There was another school, the name, it was in one of the newspapers, Corydon Milliken High School, and it was saying that kids need more, check this out, they need more than 7 minutes. I believe they had 7 minutes to get to the last class of the day. 7 minutes. And then this newspaper is still requesting that they actually have more time to get to their classes. I understand that we want our children to be focused. There are, to me, better ways to do that than to punish the children and make them feel like they have limited time to get to where they need to go, to process the information they're learning, to make sure they're drinking, water in 8 hours. Every 2 hours, I encourage my children to drink water, 8 ounces of water. So if you're talking about 2 minutes, how much, 3 minutes, how much time does that give you to drink water, to go to the bathroom, to wash your hands properly, to socialize, maybe say something hi, or just to feel like, okay, gearing yourself ready for the next class and to relax, putting this class behind you, getting yourself ready for the next class. Should our children receive more time in between classes? I believe yes, because it's an opportunity for us to discuss with them proper behavior in the hallways, to discuss the importance of drinking plenty of water, to discuss the importance of, giving themselves time to really go to the hygiene stuff, really talk to them about, proper behavior and proper tone of voice and words to speak. If that is the problem, that's what we need to get to the root of, not in punishing every student to limited time to break between classes. Because until you get to the root of the problem, it will always be there. And my son, the witness was that no matter what, I don't know how bad it was before the limited break time of 4 minutes, but my son still experienced bullying in that amount of time. He still saw fights in the hallway. He still heard profanity and very inappropriate language. People still made time to do that. The kids did. So if they're still making time to do that, then that's what we need to get to the root of the problem with. And unfortunately, one of the main reason I took our children out of it, because we tried to do that. And it was almost like we came up against a big brick wall, that it was okay, that the culture that they were having was somehow okay on a certain level. So those are my thoughts regarding the limited break time between classes. Definitely feel free to comment on that. What are your thoughts? Do you have children in school? Do they have limited time to get back and forth from one class to the bathroom to the class? What kind of healthy behaviors are they sacrificing to meet the school requirements of limited break time between classes? I'm going to be really talking about that, because it's such a big part of our child's day. And there's so many different cycles of pain that's involved in that. As you know, I mentioned bullying, I mentioned unhealthy behavior, I mentioned, inappropriate language, just so much that's involved in that. And our schools, the last thing we need is our schools continuing to feed the cycle of pain. All right, you guys, this is Tamika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. We have opportunities to break the cycle of pain instead of allowing them to continue unnoticed or not adequately dealt with. And let's just cover it up with this. This is our quick and easy solution. And in essence, it doesn't become a quick and easy solution. It is more wood to the fire. All right, more spokes in the cycle of pain. And even though I did just kind of laugh a little bit, it really hurts to know that some children are going through that. And I had to deal with my son when he was talking about, mom, I really feel bad for the children that have to stay in that type of environment. And we talked about survivor's guilt and the importance of making sure that you stay in your right frame of mind, and that we pray for those, the parents, the school, the administrators, the children, to increase their awareness of what's going on, so that they can make better choices in how they act and how the school administrators respond to the children and the requirements that they set forth in their organization. I'll talk to you guys soon.